It's kind of crazy that being illegal alien. Yeah, because my family came up from Mexico up in this bad boy back in the 1970s without no one's permission because this is land to be traversed. Whatever, I'm not going to get into that. That's not the point of this. But one of the biggest things that I've seen, though, is that taxation without representation. And then our capital, Washington, D.C., has no representation. Nobody. Virginia, Maryland, they got representation. But DC don't. And I'm just looking at taxes and like, you got to pay this tax and that tax. And I don't know if you've ever heard the speech that the president of El Salvador, Bukelele, I call him Bukelele because that's how I like saying it. But he said that taxes are just a game. It's just checks on balances on poor people. Because if they can print money, what they need your money for? What they need it for? I've always been to the adherent truth that rich people love the comparison, the stark contrast between poor and rich. They love it. They live for that. And we do too. We want to get rich. We want to have a good life. We don't want to worry. But property taxes on stuff that you already paid for that the bank don't even help you with. And then you got to do a bunch of stuff. I live in Chicago. In Chicago, I've noticed that they do PR stunts. I'm pro-immigrant. I don't really care. I'm pro-immigrant. I'll always be that way because I understand how the system works. One day you're American, one day you're illegal. It doesn't matter to me. I already understand how the cookie crumbles. So we always going to be pro-immigrant. And you got a lot of like fake busters out there. I'm American, I'm white. Nah, you ain't fool. Wait till that fucking other shoe drops. You'll see how American you are. But that's besides the point. So I'm pro-immigrant, but I'm also like, I look at stuff and I'm all like, property taxes? On stuff that you own that they did not help you with? And then you got to get building permits to build on your... Nah. That screams communism to me. Screams communism to me. I don't really care how you feel. One time I was at a bar and this one guy said, if you don't like it, you should leave. And I told that motherfucker, I served this country, so I ain't going to leave nowhere. I'm going to make my opinion heard. He shut up real quick because vanilla cakes can't serve in the forces. And you know what? I'm not with the agenda of the military. But I got a lot of love for my troops because I went through boot camp at 17 years old. I went to my deployment when I was 23 years old. You know what I'm saying? Well, I got a lot of love for them, but I got out because I already knew what kind of bullshit they was on. Again, aside the point, we're getting back to taxes. Taxes? Man, this country was built on a tax revolution. And all of a sudden, we got a sugar tax on a bottle. We got a sales tax on a bottle. We got a plastic tax on a bottle. Nah. What? Made no damn sense. Property taxes. Nigga, you didn't discover this shit. You didn't do anything for this. You didn't work for this. So why do you get... Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, he tried to fire the CPS president. And I was like, why are you trying to fire that dude? I totally understood exactly what happened like 4 months ago. He knew that the aldermen were not going to vote yes for that property tax. And he wanted to rig the Chicago Public Board of Directors because he knew exactly one loophole. His tax plan would go through even if they said no. At the last hour, he held an emergency meeting for the CPS Board of Directors and they voted to increase property taxes. And this lady came on film and she said, and when it comes to the kids, I'm going to do it. It doesn't matter. My thing is, if the parents of those kids that you care about can't afford life, you really telling the kids, fuck yourself. So what you talking about? You gonna do this for the kids? Do this for the kids. Help the parents out. They got properties that they don't want to pay. $10,000 for something that you don't do? Nah. This country's wayward. And you know what is sad? Is that you wayward too. You think that shit's sweet. You think that shit's cool. It ain't. 1776 tax revolution. They threw tea out the boat to say the British government. Now it's time for us to say the U.S. government, because this shit out of hand. Out of hand. I'm not even responsible. And I feel for people that got to go through what they got to go through. And they think it's sweet. They think it's like normal. No, it ain't normal. It ain't normal to pay property taxes for something that they don't have nothing to do with, that they don't even come to cater for. Nothing. Wake up. If a stupid mofo like me understands the game, I don't even know what I'm going to do with y'all, man. I don't even know. But I understand y'all got families, y'all got kids to feed. Y'all ain't got time for all this critical thinking analysis. But it's time for a revolt. You got Trump starting a war in Iran. I want $200. We want healthcare. We ain't got money for that. But you got money to kill little kids and fuck little girls and little boys. Golly. How far the apple has fallen from the tree. Y'all take care, man.